My wife and I welcomed twins in November. We struggled to have children for a long time, 9 years, and had our twins via IVF. It was a long battle to have our babies, and when we chose their names, it was something we not only took seriously, but poured a lot of love into because we knew they would be the only children we would name. We chose the first names, Axara and Esme, for the twins, but the length was the part of the choice for these names. Growing up, I had a long last name, 10 letters, and my parents gave me very formal and lengthy first and middle names. Frederick Lawrence, and I always found my name very stuffy and old-fashioned. So I go by a nickname derived from my middle name now. I also took my wife's much simpler last name when we married. So we announced the name of our twins when they were a day old. But when we announced the names, we knew my parents might not be in love with them. Still, I stupidly believed the twins being born would be enough of a deterrent for a negative comment. Just about a week after their birth, my parents asked what kind of names they had and how we could give them such juvenile and incomplete names. I told them they were neither of those things, and they needed to be careful about how they spoke about their grandchildren's names. I thought they had listened, but then in January they started calling them Winifred and Douglas. At first, we weren't positive they were talking about the twins. But then we were celebrating my niece's birthday, and my parents directly addressed my daughter as Winifred. And I knew it was them that they were talking to, so I told them those were not their names. They said those were the nicknames they had given them. And everyone has a nickname. And it's not like we gave them names that could lend themselves to nicknames. I said Ezzy and Essie if they really wanted nicknames. They ignored me and they continued to use these nicknames. So we decided not to be around because on top of that, they were telling my siblings that the names they had chosen were better for my children. My siblings thought that they were crazy. My parents tried to see the kids a few times since, and they always told them no. Finally, they asked why, and I told them they don't get to see our children if all they can do is insult their names. My parents accused me of trying to control them and said nicknames are a part of life. I told them what they were doing wasn't giving a nickname. It was renaming my children in their own heads. And my wife and I don't want them renaming them. I also said we would not further encourage the use of these nicknames they gave them. My parents said if I had stuck to the family way of naming babies, none of this would be happening. And they said I was being unfair to them. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Cow. What? You can't turn Robert into Zachary. That's not a nickname. That's a whole other name. I would rename the parents from now on Esmeralda and Gomez and address them with those names on their birthday and Christmas cards. Sit back, relax, and don't forget the popcorn for the crap show that will unfold. This is brilliant. New names every single time they're addressed. What your parents are doing is bizarre. You can't just make up completely different names for people because you don't like them. It's disrespectful to you and confusing for the kids. I wouldn't want to be around them either. Their parents sound like narcissists and they're bullying you. Exactly. The names you and your wife chose are lovely. Your parents are straight up cuckoo banana pants. As Copter, Douglas, and Winfred. For babies now are terrible names. Okay, Winnie's cute, but that's not the point. If you want to be petty, now only give your parents personalized gifts. Ezra loves Nana Mud. Esme loves her Grandpa T. Number 1 grandparents to Ezra and Esme: hand towels, keychains, mouse pads, beach towels, but I'm petty. Names are important. If your twins want to someday change their names, fine. Not the grandparents. You went through so much to have your babes, and congratulations. My ex and I have a teen daughter together. My ex and her husband wanted to take my daughter and their kids on a trip. My daughter hates going on trips with her mom. Some of her reasons are that they get one room for all the kids. Her half-siblings are a nearly adult female and a preteen male, and she hates sharing a room with them. A lot of the activities are child-friendly because of her younger brother, which she finds boring. Also, it was a 13-hour drive, which she finds really tiring. They either eat homemade food or eat in low-quality restaurants to save more money, and my daughter hates low-quality food. Her mom insisted that she needed to go with them, so I decided to make this more pleasant for her. I talked to her mom and decided to go to that city and spend time with my daughter. For example, whenever they wanted to do a child-friendly activity, I'd take my daughter somewhere else, and she agreed. My daughter and I decided to go by plane because we both hated being on the road for a long time. Then when we were there, I got a room for her so she didn't have to share with anyone. We would eat breakfast together in a really nice restaurant, and then she'd spend time with her mom's family until lunchtime. Then I would take her out and bring her back after dinner. Now my ex is saying I'm an idiot for ruining their trip. Apparently, this is not what she agreed to. I made her other kids jealous because they had to watch their sister get a room for herself and eat better food and come back from shopping with her handful of new stuff. I wonder if I actually was the idiot. I mean, she agreed that I'd be there and spend time with my daughter, so I don't understand why she's suddenly acting like this. You are the idiot. Of course, it would create animosity between the siblings to have such different experiences. Why would the nearly adult child enjoy stuff for the younger sibling any more than your daughter would? You're creating a self-centered monster who won't cope well in the real world if she's too good for low-quality food as a teen and can't handle a family vacation. How will she handle work experiences? College. She won't handle work experiences either. She'll just quit and blame it on her coworkers. What I find so depressing about these things is often when the kids are 19 or 20, after years of being entitled and pampered, the parents get angry because their kid is now considered a bratty adult, and they want to cut the kid off and toss them out because they act exactly the way they were raised to act. I'm getting idiot vibes from you because you seem to look down your nose on eating homemade food and low-quality restaurants to save money. You're raising your daughter to be a pretentious snob. It was an idiot move to send your daughter back to her mom and siblings with new stuff from shopping sprees. You could have kept that stuff in your room. My gut tells me you enjoyed rubbing all of this in your ex's face. Yep, your interference was ridiculous. The only time it's appropriate to interfere with the other parent when co-parenting is if harm is being done. Sharing a hotel room with siblings is normal. Eating homemade food is not a problem. Eating at cheap restaurants is fine. The trips are fine. Sounds like you still hold resentment towards your ex and use your money to make sure your daughter prefers spending time and money with daddy instead of mommy. You knew exactly what you were doing and you're acting coy here. I, 31 female, am currently doing my residency in internal medicine. It's brutal, but I should be finished in December. I have 5 cousins on my dad's side. Most of them have non-health related careers, but Andy, 32 male, is a chiropractor, and Kayla, 26 female, is a nurse practitioner. Now, my dad's family has had at least 1 or 2 doctors in every generation. My grandpa and his brother were family medicine. My dad is a urologist, and one of my aunts is a pediatrician. When I was in high school and college, my grandparents used to talk about how I would carry on the tradition and be the first doctor in my generation of our family. My other cousins were very clear. They weren't interested. Last weekend, we had a celebration with my dad's side. At the table, my grandma asked about my residency and how happy they were to see me as the first doctor of my generation. Then Andy butted in and pointed out that he and Kayla are also... Kayla and Andy are not doctors. I was frankly annoyed and a little tipsy, so I told him that a chiropractor and a nurse practitioner aren't the same as a physician. Chiropractic is pseudoscience and can even be dangerous for patients. Nursing is a great career, and I'm proud of my cousin for getting her nurse practitioner, but being a nurse practitioner is its own distinct thing. Andy got cranky and called me privileged and arrogant. Kayla kind of took my side, but then said something about how nurse practitioner school is just as challenging as medical school, and that it's only devalued because nursing is a historically female career path. My grandpa interjected to tell them both to take a seat, that they weren't doctors and shouldn't be claiming to be such. After lunch, Kayla pulled me aside and uninvited me to her private practice grand opening next month. She said she only wanted people cheering her on to attend, and she felt like it was best if I skipped. I didn't really want to go anyway. I have very limited free time. So I said I respected that. Am I the idiot? I'm the idiot. They sound insecure, and Andy is a jealous one. Kayla should know better than to conflate nursing with being a physician. I agree with Kayla that nursing has been historically devalued due to its traditionally female career. I also think Kayla needs to lighten up a bit. Yep, if they wanted to be physicians, they should have studied medicine. Being a nurse is not the same as being a doctor. I really respect nurses, but again, they're 2 distinct things. Next time, let Grandma and Grandpa handle it. Clearly, Grandma has already agreed with you, and you could have sat back and let Andy lose his own argument. Yeah, chiropractors are quacks. If you have actual muscular issues, go to a good physical therapist. it's harder with NPS. Most MPS IVs I've worked with seem a bit touchy about their level of training. I'm a physician. I did literally 10 years of med school, residency, and fellowship. Bring residency. I usually put in 80-hour weeks and spent every fourth night in the hospital. Many MPS now do a 3-year program after never being in medicine at all. Most of the medical errors I see in misdiagnosis or really questionable decisions come from NPS. I also have a family member who's an NPP. I avoid this subject completely because it can only end with bruised feelings. Should you have said it? You should have kept quiet and made fun of them later in an online doctor's forum or something to get it out of your system. But I can see why you did it. It was totally unnecessary to bring attention to that in front of everyone. I'd like to point out that I'm on Team Kayla. Nursing has been historically devalued. I also commend her for how she handled herself, and kudos for her private practice opening. M31. This was 2 weekends ago. I work for a rather small firm. There are 12 employees in total. Since we exceeded our yearly goals for 2022, we were treated to a weekend stay at a golf resort. I don't love golf, but I can play. The owners are big fans. I'm also one of 3 women employed. I'm the youngest. The other 2 are a few years older than me. They also had a pool, tennis, gym, and all the fun things a resort needs. On Sunday, I took some time to lay up by the pool and have some cocktails. I was told we would all eat a late lunch at the poolside restaurant. I met everyone there. The other 2 women told me it was gutsy to wear what I was wearing. I was wearing a somewhat athletic bikini. First, the bottom was full coverage and was almost like shorts, and the top resembled a sports bra more than anything else. The other 2 women told me I should be old enough to know that was stupid, and they even accused me of wanting to show off to the men. Now, these other women are in good shape, so we can't say that they're jealous. They're definitely able to rock bikinis, so maybe I didn't think this through, but I purposely bought this suit for this trip. I thought it was as plain Jane as can be. I mean, is it very inappropriate to show my belly? Because that was all that was different between my swimsuit and theirs, was that my stomach was showing. Are they idiots, or am I missing something here? I was not wearing the swimsuit at lunch. I walked up to the place in it and put my cover-up on as we sat down. The restaurant was outside and next to the pool. Nobody was dressed up. You are the idiot. Why did you put clothes on at the table and not before? You draw a lot of attention getting dressed at the table than if you would have thrown the cover-up on before meeting up with your colleagues. Why wouldn't you just put it on when you stand up at the lounge? You won't tan in that 30-second walk, and at least you've got the space to shake it out, etc., while by the sun longer. It wasn't like lunch was a long way away. Maybe she was still wet and wanted the extra 30 seconds to dry off. I don't understand what the big deal is with this. This mob acted like she took a limo to the restaurant instead of walking from the pool to the poolside restaurant. Seriously, like, would she walk all of maybe 100 feet or something? Everybody in here is shaming Up for being an evil, distracting female. Be case in point, nobody would give a flying heck if Stephen J. Businessman had been swimming and walked up to the outdoor table shirtless before donning his cover-up. But because Ope is a female and looks good in a bikini, she should have been more professional. More professional, hypocritical, double-standard, misogynistic BS. Not the idiot, but I would be careful in the future. They're your work colleagues, and keeping a mostly professional vibe should always be expected, even when doing off-site events. Like if you wanted to wear a string bikini, technically that's not illegal or inappropriate for the occasion. But then your coworkers might think about you wearing a string bikini from now on, even when you're in the office. I'm not saying what you wore was inappropriate because gasp, midriff, but I wouldn't want my boss or any other coworkers picturing me in anything revealing when we're back at work. Ritual when you're doing anything remotely work-related. Even if you're off the clock, you're on the clock. I met my husband 7 years ago when my son was a toddler. We got pregnant with our daughter only 2 months after dating, his only biological child. Things are actually absolutely fantastic in our relationship, despite rushing into things. There have hardly been any issues until recently. My son's tween birthday is coming up soon, and we had always told him we would get him a phone for his birthday. He has honestly been harping on us since he was a young tween because all of his friends had a phone, and he felt like the oddball. I felt terrible and wanted to cave several times but didn't because my husband and I had already decided together that we would get him one by a certain age. Now that his birthday is right around the corner, he's very fixated and excited that he'll be able to get a phone. He's fully expecting it, which I already knew would happen because of how many times we told him when you're this age. Well, I was looking at phones online the other day that had some parental controls and all that happy jazz. And my husband decided at this moment that he doesn't think my son is old enough for a phone, and that he should have to wait until he's at least a mid-teen. I told him that absolutely was not happening, but entertained his reasoning to figure out the why. He said that basically he didn't want my kid to have access to any form of social media, and he feels that getting him a phone would be forcing him to grow up too fast and be subjected to the media at ignorance. I reiterated that this was our deal with my kid, and that I wasn't going to go back on it. I don't even agree with his reasoning, to be 100 honest with you, but I didn't tell him that. I just said that I wasn't going back on a promise. He argued it for easily 30 minutes, saying no, he doesn't even need a phone, before I finally told him that he had absolutely no say on this, and I was getting my kid a cell phone. He snaps back with, then it had better be a flip phone because I don't want him on the darn internet. He hasn't spoken to me since. Half of my friends are on my side, but the other half says I need to consider what he's saying. My husband hates mainstream media and talks about it at least once a week. Sorry, but to push this issue another 3 years after making your son wait will shatter any trust he has in you both. Better to make rules, use parental software effectively, and teach him responsibility rather than alienate him like this. Also, your husband is dead wrong. The kid needs to learn how to use a smartphone safely and sensibly. At his age, your relationship is still close, and you can guide him. He's by mid-teen years. His peers will be first, and they'll have been on the internet for 5 years or more. At adults who think they can keep their kids off the internet. My sister gave her kids phones when they turned 10. This is only because her son skipped grades and ended up in the class surrounded by tweens, with pretty much everyone having phones. And to be fair, the other got hers at the same age. Though both were pretty mature at that age, my sister kept a close eye on them because she wanted them to wait until they were your son's age. The kids never abused that privilege. My personal opinion is your kid responsible enough for a phone? If you trust your kid to come to you in times of problems, he's ready for one. Just teach them basic internet safety. Yeah, this issue is not about a phone and will be more of a thing the older your son gets. Your husband is afraid because he knows the more your son is exposed to the world, the more chance he has of realizing that perhaps your husband's views on certain things might be incorrect.